Antes pasaba trabajo llenando huecos para poderme bañar. Ahora ya no me preocupo, no salgo en mi casa, el agua llega acá. Siempre tengo mi servicio del agua, me gusta estar al día. Ya no me preocupo por agua, siempre estoy al día. Agüita por aquí, agüita por allá, agüita por delante y agüita porque estoy al día. Ya no me azoro y me relajo porque estoy al día. Me prestan un buen servicio porque estoy al día. Tengo más tiempo, ahorro energía y al día. Pues la motobomba ya nos mantiene encendida.
Antes no me importaba la calidad con que el agua me llegaba. Luego me puse a pensar que algo tenía que mejorar, que la salud era la prioridad. Y en mi barrio ejemplo empecé a dar. Mi vecino
en el agua y luego llega a la planta. Claro, allá los expertos la tratan y en esto te gasta una plata. Después te hace el bombeo y llega a la casa en un parpadeo para que se cocine y haga el aseo. Y eso es un proceso y tienes un manejo.
Agüita por aquí, agüita por allá, agüita por delante y agüita porque estoy al día. Ya no me atoro y me relajo porque estoy al día. Antes pasaba trabajo llenando huecos para poderme bañar. Ahora ya no me preocupo, no salgo en mi casa, el agua llega acá. Siempre tengo mi servicio del agua, me gusta estar al día. Ya no me preocupo por agua, siempre estoy al día. Agüita por aquí, agüita por allá, agüita por delante y agüita porque estoy al día. Ya no me azoro y me relajo porque estoy al día. Me prestan un buen servicio porque estoy al día. Tengo más tiempo, ahorro energía y al día. Pues la motobomba ya nos mantiene encendida.
Antes no me importaba la calidad con que el agua me llegaba. Luego me puse a pensar que algo tenía que mejorar, que la salud era la prioridad. Y en mi barrio ejemplo empecé a dar. Mi vecino me pedía agua.
Tu vecino te pedía agua.
Hasta mi vecina me pedía agua.
Hasta tu vecina te pedía agua.
Le conté a todos de la situación y todito entramos en razón. Nunca en la vía prestaba atención, que nosotros mismos éramos la solución. Ahí mismito empezamos a cambiar y el servicio empezó a mejorar. Tuberías nuevas, el agua más seguida y todito felices de la vida.
My name is Alcorn. I am the Senior Director of Partnerships and Government Relations at One Drop Foundation. And I'm joined today by my colleagues at One Drop. I have Elnick Duran over there in the corner. Elnick, raise your hand. Lisa in the back with the camera. And Tania Vachon, who's going to be presenting today. Online as well, we have colleagues, both Herman, hi Herman, and Kelly. This session was developed, it was co-developed in a collaboration with Christina from Helvetas, Dina from Incofin, Alex from the Toilet Board Coalition, and Vida from IRC. Dina is joining us online. So this, as you can tell, is an online, on-site, hybrid session. The objective of today's session is to create collective intelligence and grow our knowledge through exchange on innovations in the wash sector. This session was designed to be participatory, thought-provoking, and most importantly, fun. So we're going to start by exploring what is wash innovation. We will share some results from an internal working session that we hosted a few weeks ago. And then we're going to turn to you and ask you for your insights. And we're going to do that through Mentimeter. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Mentimeter platform, we'll need you to get online with your phone or your computer if you're joining us online. And you can participate. I'll give you the instructions at the time. Prior to exploring innovative solutions, each of our conveners will share a WASH challenge that their organization has faced. We will then break into a World Tour Cafe. You're already seated at those tables. If you can, please join one of the four of the tables. That's going to be our breakout groups. So those are, and those are you online. You will go and break out with Dina into breakout rooms through Zoom. So here in the room, you'll be asked to contribute your ideas, innovative solutions to the challenges that were presented by our conveners. After the World Cafe, the online people will join us back, and we will hear from the conveners on the actual solutions that their organization devised and executed. We will then wind down the session by opening up the floor to all participants. So that means in the room and online, to ask questions to the conveners. So for those of you online, please feel free to insert your questions through the chat. Herman will be monitoring. He'll be feeding them to Elle and Nick, and we will ensure that we answer your questions. Okay, are you ready? I don't know. Are you ready? Okay, great. So before we start, we're going to just share with you some rules of the session. At OneDrop, we've developed a set of rules that always guide our creative work. So we ask you to try to integrate these rules into your participation today, okay? So they are, trust the process. You're headed into a bit of an unknown, right? You're sitting at these tables, there's markers, there's paper, you're going, what is going to happen here? But in order to be creative and grow your knowledge, it's really best to just trust the process. We also ask you to accept the chaos. It might get a little crazy in here at times. There will be some balls flying. There'll be some drawings and pictures, but just know that there is a method to all this madness, okay? We also ask you to suspend your judgment. It's human nature. We all judge, but we really ask you to enter this space with an open mind, because this really enables us to be creative and to innovate. And of course, think outside the box. All ideas are welcome, but this is really key for being innovative. Okay, quickly into what is WASH innovation. Given the fact that globally we are just not on track to meet the goals of SDG 6 by 2030, we really need to get creative and innovate. When most of us think about innovation in the WASH sector, our minds quickly go to technology, product level innovation. But really, this is not the sole area, right? We know that there are social innovations, process innovations, system level innovations, and all of this we're going to explore today. Since there's no real solid definition of WASH innovation, like I mentioned, we came together and we explored what this means. So we all agreed that WASH innovation needs to serve needs. So needs such as effective governance, behavior change, financing, and systems thinking. And WASH innovation needs to be user design, community-centered, grounded in research and evidence. We also went on to defining some characteristics of WASH innovation. So it has to be creative, collaborative, sustainable, inclusive, scalable, and these are just to name a few. Okay, now we want to hear from you. So please get out your phones. If you can scan the QR code from here, that's great. Otherwise, go to www.mentimeter.com or just mentimeter.com. And if you need to enter the code, if you've gone through the URL site, it's 42 37 47 63. And we're going to ask you the first question. And I'm just going to go. In one or two words, what does WASH innovation mean to you? So I repeat, in one or two words, what does WASH innovation mean to you? So far we have scalable. Do a refresh. Aha. Impactful, accepted, doing things differently, processes, accessible, efficient, health, equitable, more scalable, equity, inclusive, water, gender responsive, nice one, improvement, resilience. We've got 30 responses. All good. Please feel free to keep entering. Those will show up And we can definitely share those later. Okay, are we ready to go on to the next? Harder question, much harder question. Yeah? What are the constraints or obstacles to WASH innovation? Constraints and obstacles. Funding, lack of enforcement, funding, fear, interesting, scaling up, not invented here, local, governance, financing, no monitoring and evaluation, proper financing, a mindset, an old mindset, behaviors, poor governance, lack of resources, corruption, racism, bureaucracy. Oh my goodness, the list is long. Yes, great. Thank you. Okay. Now that we have explored obstacles and challenges, we're actually going to hear now from our panel because they are going to share real life challenges that their organizations have faced. And first up is Christina.
Hi, good morning. My name is Christina Barstow. I'm from an organization called Helvetas, and we are an international nonprofit. We work across 30 countries, and we have WASH programs in 12 of those countries. We take a systems change approach to our work, whereby all of our programs are multi-sectoral. There's usually not just a WASH infrastructure component, but a behavior change component, maybe a private sector development component. And as an organization that works across 30 countries, we also work across all of those sectors. So nutrition, agriculture, et cetera. And so being able to work across all those sectors means we can take a system change approach to the work that we do. So with this, that also happens with our WASH programs. So all of our WASH programs work and look extremely differently. So for example, in Mali, our Jakura program includes solar-powered autonomous water stations with an emphasis on improving kind of water efficiency and service quality. While in Bangladesh, our Pani Jiban program is much more climate focused, where we're promoting climate smart technologies, such as sand filters. Now to zoom in, I'll take you to Nepal. And this is where I'm going to talk about one of our challenges. Many of you that work in Nepal and frankly across this sector know about working in remote rural areas. So in Nepal, we work in provinces called Karnali and Sudur. And it takes hours, not days, to reach just the road heads and even further to reach district headquarters. Also, a lot of these roads are seasonal. So whilst they may be open some times of year, they're not open other times of year. So this is a variety of supply chain issues that we encounter in Nepal. I heard someone yesterday say bridges are actually not built for getting across rivers. They're actually for supply chain challenges. And I think as an organization that's built 10,000 bridges in Nepal, we still face those supply chain challenges. And one of those things that happens with WASH and water innovation is our ability to test for water quality becomes extremely difficult in this context. So we can't actually reach a laboratory in a city. It takes anywhere from 14 to 24 hours. And that means the viability and reliability of any water test that we want to do comes into question. So the challenge that I'm putting to all of you today is a need for innovation in our work in measuring E. coli in these rural areas. So I know there's been a lot of people who have worked on this. So I'm really interested to hear kind of where you all have been, maybe some suggestions you have. Yesterday I heard about Acquire's Water Quality Assurance Fund. So a lot of different ways to think about this particular challenge. So here's my challenge and the constraints that we're kind of under in this Nepali context. So these water samples need to be collected and processed and stored in 35 plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. There needs to be consistent, high quality monitoring 3 times per year. Again, it takes several days to walk to the nearest laboratory. So thinking about that as a constraint, we have limited electricity, but also connectivity. And any kind of supply chain things are only going to be available infrequently. We also want this to be inexpensive, sustainable, and long-term. My final pitch to you is I'm going to be in that back table back there. And as a Swiss NGO, we always bring chocolate. So feel free to head on over there. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Christina. So Dina is joining us online today. So we're going to switch over so we can hear from her. Oh, there she is. Hi, Dina.
Hello. Hi, everyone. It's great to be able to participate in this session. You confirm you hear me well?
We can hear you. Yeah, we're going to put up your slides, though.
All right. Well, the slides are being pulled up. Introducing briefly myself. I am Dina. I'm calling you from Phnom Penh, Cambodia, where I'm based, and where Incofin, the company I work for, has a Asia regional office. At Incofin, we wake up every morning because we want to invest for impact to drive inclusive progress and sustainable transitions. We've been trying to do that for 20 years, managing today as a global investor 1.5 billion euro of assets. We have expertise in 3 key sectors: in rural financial inclusion, in sustainable agriculture, and more recently in the space of drinking water. So today, I would like to indeed speak to you a little bit about one of the challenges that we have faced as an investor when wanting to develop an innovation that could be suited and relevant for the drinking water space. The problem, indeed, and I think I'm stating here the obvious, is that, as we all know, today, over 2 billion people still lack access to safe and clean drinking water. This basically implies that for every 3 privileged person, there is 1 that is without access to these very, very basic human needs. We know as well that it's not so much due to the fact that there is no local solution or no capital. We know there's a lot of public utilities, but oftentimes their outreach is limited. We know, meanwhile, that when you look at private sector solutions, there's some small scale, trying to scale, having understood the constraint and business code of how to scale, but not necessarily being able to do so. So what we have seen at Incofin, next slide, please, is that in fact, when you look around, it's not so much that there is a lack of capital access. There are a lot of financiers out there that are interested in wanting to contribute to the wash space. And within the wash space here, I'm talking about the drinking water space. But the reality is that the ecosystem is fragmented. The language that each of these financiers speak is different. Their risk appetite is different. Their liquidity constraint is different. And here I want to highlight to you just a few conversations that I've been having over the past 3 years when I was trying to figure out what could we do to make financing innovation relevant to the market. I met a lot of corporation representatives. Oftentimes they have a CSR budget, or they are the head of a foundation linked to a corporation. And they tell you, I have funding for water and for drinking water. It's part of our mandate, but I have no expertise. I don't know how to channel this money to the right water businesses on the other side of the world. Meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, I met representative of public funding, the famous development financial institutions. Here, they tell you, we know we have a mandate. We understand we need to contribute to create investment readiness of the sector. We have de-risking capital. We cannot just pull de-risking capital out there. We need to be able to catalyze private sector investors as well. I've also met a lot of representatives in the philanthropy or foundation community. And they tell me, we are used to grant funding. We have made a promise to the people who have donated money to us that we will be the direct allocator of our funding. How can we go beyond this? How can we be more scalable beyond going on a project per project basis by channeling our donation money? I also met representatives from private sector, even bankers, that are now increasingly telling me, yes, we are developing ESG investment strategies. We know we need to be responsible towards our savers and show how we're using their money. But we cannot lose the money either. And the water sector is considered oftentimes very, very risky by our board and investment committee. How can I invest? I met finally, eventually, other corporations which are not only developing foundations or CSR verticals, they're developing a proper impact investment strategy. But even when they do so, their fear is that they feel that people are going to accuse them of not being neutral, of not being objective in the way that they're developing this strategy, of wanting to push business interest, for instance. So my question to you all, for the sake of this exercise today all together, is how do you think, what type of facility of innovation, of funding innovation we could pull together? What characteristic could it have in order for all these financiers here, public, private, philanthropic, in order to be able to pull their money together and invest in the drinking water space in emerging markets? Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dina. Over to Vida. These slides are not the same. Okay.
So, good morning, everyone. My name is Vida Duti. I'm from IRC, but I work in Ghana. I will start by introducing a bit what we do as IRC. As IRC, we call ourselves a think and do tank. We focus on building systems that will support the delivery of sustainable water, sanitation, and hygiene services. We work in a number of countries in Africa. We work in Asia. Primarily, we work with governments, with NGOs. We do everything but construction. I think these days, a lot of people talk about systems, and I'll not be supporting if I don't explain to you what we mean by systems. By systems, we mean all the factors that are required to enable the delivery of water, sanitation, and services. And mostly for us in our homes, we wake up in the morning, we open our taps, and water starts flowing. Usually we see the construction, the pipes, and the pumps. But think behind that. To be able to get the water to your home, there must be policies that support the delivery. There must be plans. Someone needs to regulate. Financing arrangement needs to be sorted out. Institutions must have the capacity to deliver. We want to ensure that there are accountability and participation at all levels. Someone monitors. And we need to also learn and adapt. All these factors must align in order for us to turn on the tap and have the water delivered sustainably. Our theory of change is that sometimes these factors are not in place. And so we focus on supporting to strengthen that enabling factors for delivering water. And if you put all the package together, that is what we mean by the systems that support the delivery. So traditionally, as a think and do tank, and for most of you who might know a little bit about IRC, our history had been to work as research and knowledge brokers. And so typically we'll go to a place, we'll work with them, do the research to establish the evidence that indeed there are issues with the systems that needs to be addressed. And we did that with a number of districts. But what challenge did we face? You do the research, you build your evidence, you do your nice glossary printed document, you present it. And the objective was that by showing that to governments, it would trigger action. But we realized that it didn't trigger action. And therefore, today I'm here to present to you our challenge of how to blend all these factors of the systems to ensure that indeed we deliver sustainable services. So we have 3 issues that we are dealing with. First, how to facilitate partnerships and align the common agenda of sustainable water services. Secondly, we are dealing with the issue of how to engage government at both national and local level to provide systems leadership to provide sustainable water services. How do you get governments to be in the driving seats? And then the third challenge component that we want to present to you is how to engender ownership and mutual accountability for sustainable water services, because all the factors must align. In Ghana, we operate at the national level. We are supposed to generate the evidence to be able to bring it back into national policy and national engagement. And so the test case of what I have presented, we are testing that in the Ahafo region. We working in 1 district. We want to scale to all the 6 districts in the Ahafo region. Adapt this approach to support them to reach universal services by 2030. I hope you help me to resolve this challenge of ours. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vida. Onward to Alexandra, who's going to join us from the Toilet Board Coalition.
We've talked about water, now we'll talk about sanitation. So our vision at the Toilet Board Coalition is that by 2030, there's a global sanitation economy. It is thriving, circular, and smart. It inspires the brightest entrepreneurs, supports livelihoods, and is bringing dignity to life. We were founded in 2015 by leading multinational corporations to accelerate business solutions to the sanitation crisis. To date, we have helped 58 local sanitation entrepreneurs that are serving low-income customers to more than double their growth and facilitated over 22 million of investment into those businesses. According to the latest data from the UN, 3.5 billion people still don't have access to safely managed sanitation. Our analysis shows that roughly 1 billion of these individuals are reachable through customer-centric, market-based approaches. Entrepreneurs around the world are already building businesses in this sector, but we need these businesses to grow a lot faster for us to reach SDG 6. To be precise, we need to scale 1,000 local sanitation businesses by 2030 to serve 1 billion individuals. And this leads us to my table's innovation challenge today. We'll focus on India, and as an example, on the incredible Ulka Saralkar, whose business, the T-Bus, we worked with in 2018. Ulka comes from an engineering background, and she and her business partner had the idea to launch a business around the problem of solving sanitation for women on the go. The T-Bus converts old scrap buses into semi-portable toilets for women. But public toilets alone do not bring in significant enough revenue to sustain and grow a business. And they made scrap buses work from an engineering perspective, but it wasn't working from a marketing perspective. At the Toilet Board Coalition, we've interacted with around 800 sanitation entrepreneurs over the last 7.5 years. The large majority of them come into this space from one of two backgrounds, engineering or personal passion, meaning there is a multitude of technical solutions and enthusiasm, but often we find ourselves lacking the business development, marketing, or sales background needed to take a business from 50 customers to 50,000 to 500,000. For our challenge today at my table, we will explore the challenge our founders and so many sanitation entrepreneurs are facing. How do we attract business skills to the local sanitation sector? Or perhaps, more specifically, how can we equip local sanitation entrepreneurs with business skills? Thank you.
Great, thank you, Alex. Last but not least, Tania Vachon from One Drop Foundation is going to present her challenge.
Okay. I'm gonna take my face off this. So the One Drop Foundation was created by the founder of Cirque du Soleil, Guy Laliberté, 15 years back. The foundation's mission is to ensure sustainable access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene for communities that are facing extreme barriers through innovative partnerships, creativity, and the power of art. We currently support 14 projects in 12 countries, and we're scaling our work, our regional work in Latin America and in Canada. To understand the challenge I'm presenting today, you need to know that One Drop is not an implementing organization. What we do is we collaborate with international partners that do have teams and offices locally, and they are the ones that implement the interventions and the initiatives, okay? We also, so we financially support the WASH strategic overall project, and we also provide expertise in behavior change through our approach that is called social art for behavior change, because we strongly believe that behavior change is quite needed. The sector needs human-centered approaches. Behavior change contributes to making changes sustainable, and it also reinforces the WASH system. The behaviors that we encourage people to practice are the usual ones. It's hand washing with soap and water. You have safe storage of water, duly payment of water tariff or water services, adequate water treatment. These are more or less the ones that we cover normally. Our expertise in social art for behavior change covers different steps. We count 7 of those, and we accompany the partners through the complete process from formative research, design, to delivery and evaluation, and sharing also with the communities. The challenge that we faced started in 2018. We meaning our partners and ourselves, we're facing insecurity in many countries where we were working. This was limiting our possibility to go to those countries and collaborate with our partners. It was a case for Burkina Faso, Mali in Africa, but also Haiti in Colombia. And in some cases, it was severe insecurity. We had stretched human resources with too much international travel on their hands. We also cannot subcontract this expertise, at least at that time. We had financial dedicated resources, and COVID-19 hit. So we needed a quick fix, to try to maintain this commitment that we have towards our partners, towards the local artists we collaborate with, delivering those social art for behavior change interventions. So we decided to turn this challenge into an opportunity, asking ourselves, how might we maintain this expertise, supporting those partners, while also prevent a gap in this technical assistance support in the future, because we all know that things are not likely to improve, unfortunately. So this is our challenge.
Okay. We've heard 5 very diverse challenges. And now we're going to go and collaborate and work together. So those of you who are online will go and meet with Dina online. Those of you in the room, you see there's 4 major tables set up here. If you can, join a table. You can stand up, hover, like this is just going to be a full.
I think we are together now for the digital session. I assume people can hear me well. So again, I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance on how things will go for the next 30 minutes. So first, to the extent you feel comfortable, I really encourage you to activate your camera. There's not going to be any right or wrong. It's just going to be a session to try to use our collective intelligence and exchange together on topics which I'm sure is dear to our heart, respectively, while we are all coming with very diverse expertise. So please feel free for those who can to switch on your camera. That would be highly appreciated to also make it a little bit more human to human. Thank you. The second thing is, again, I'd like to recap a little bit the innovation or challenge we are here to discuss. So we're talking about a funding challenge. We're talking about drinking water access to low-income population in emerging markets is very low. Meanwhile, we know that public stakeholders are playing a certain role, but oftentimes stop somewhere. And there is quite a number of private sector solutions, private businesses that are trying to attend to drinking water needs to low-income population, but they're stuck somewhere. That's the situation we're in, or at least that Incofin that I've been in. The challenge that I try to bring to your attention is the fact that, at least my opinion, is that it's not that there's not enough capital available. It's just that people have different type of risk appetite, approaches, language, backgrounds, constraints. And so the challenge or the innovation we would like to co-build during the upcoming 25 minutes of our conversation is a financing innovation. And here, what we would like to do is to create smaller groups. So we'll break out this group in 4 different groups. And the purpose would be for you to just, discuss and think about if you had somebody coming with private money, somebody coming with public money, somebody coming with grants, somebody coming with constraints of liquidity, somebody coming with CSR money. All these people say, I want to help fix the capital channeling to drinking water to low-income population. Set something up for me. Then how would that work? What would be the key features of that facility? Think, I don't know, legal status, think financing vehicle, think impact incentives, think financial return, everything that comes from your experience. So there's no right or wrong. Probably you're missing a lot of elements to end up with, something that would make us converge to one solution. What we want is precisely that each of you share your perspective, your idea, something you've seen, something you've tried, something that failed, something that worked, that didn't work enough. And to do so again, we're gonna go ahead with creating 4 groups. And what I'd like to ask you guys is that one of you just volunteer as a rapporteur. You'll be able to exchange for 12, 15 minutes, and then we'll come back together for another 12, 15 minutes. And here the idea would be that each rapporteur says, okay, here are the 2 or 3 key things that we're putting out there for, the design thinking of everyone. So I will myself go from group to group. So in case you have questions or you don't yet have inspiration, I'm happy to help you out, and wishing you a good conversation. And I will let my colleagues start the breakout groups now. Thank you. All right, we're back together in the feedback room, in the main room together. But I think the most active group was group 4, so we can always continue our discussion. Abdi Nasser, you wanted to say something about Somalia. You want to take the floor again? I think you're on mute. Oh,
now it's working. Yeah.
Yes, working.
Yes,
okay.
now. Yes,
All
now
right.
it's okay.
Okay.
So in Somalia, we have a couple of NGOs in which currently doing a humanitarian intervention. Now I've worked with international NGO called Norwegian Church, in which we have served for the last 3 years. In NCA have a headquarter office, and also it have also country office in Mogadishu, and have 2 field office in Puntland and also in Gedo. So in terms of intervention in which we have carried out in Somalia, usually we focus on implementing in-wash activity, in which we have provided to provide access to clean and safe water for the community in which are affected by recurrent of droughts and also conflicts. And in terms of activity in which we have implemented was rehabilitation of main strategic boreholes in which located in Somalia. But so far we have still facing a challenge regarding to that main boreholes, because most of boreholes in Somalia, they are very saline, and it have also negative impact to do monthly rehabilitation, replacement of pipes, and also other equipment in the system. So now we are proposing to have to do desalination units in which we have carried out technical assessment in 3 boreholes in which close to area in which we have in our office. So in terms of regarding to the water quality testing, we have a portable quality test in which we do water quality before we deliver water to our beneficiaries. For that water quality monitor, we usually do when we do water tracking activity. In terms of bank system, Somalia have a full functioning banking which is private, and also with governmental banking in which we do transferring our funding to Somalia. So in regard to the contract in which we have signed with the donors, we have a number of compliance in which you need to achieve it in terms of monitoring, sharing the narrative reports, and also financial reports. So currently we have a potential donors, which is OCHA for Somalia humanitarian funding, Ministry of Northern Foreign Affairs, and also UN agency like FAO and UNICEF and
development finance money.
Yes.
Very clear.
So if you need a further information, we have a separate meeting, and then I will prepare a small presentation, and then we can discuss further. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And Abinya, can you describe again this NGO's concept, like the pooling funding together? Is it like a peer-to-peer platform, or how would you describe it?
So are you talking about the Jazuba startup?
Yeah, Jazuba.
So it's Act Alliance, Norwegian Church.
Okay. But the one you're talking, Jazuba, where is it from?
Are you talking to me, Dina?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Abinya is your first name?
Yeah, Abhigna is my first name.
Right, yes, I'm talking to, I just wanted to, if I want to give a bit of feedback on this business model of Jazuba, if you can describe it in 2 words to me, so maybe the group will be interested to know more.
Initially, I have researched some, but I don't remember exactly. Okay. That's why I have shared you the website. But that's a startup which is trying to collect funds from the firms and trying to disperse it to the proper NGOs.
Okay. Yep. So kind of an aggregator and then channeling
platform.
Yep.
Yes, technology platform. But I think they know the core of the problem because they are in between the two parties, right? So when will the project come? How the funding goes to these people? I think they know everything in and out. Maybe proper collaboration between you and those kind of tech platforms will also help us to get more ideas.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
And also I have tried to put some message. Have you able to see that?
Yes. I will answer you. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I saw somebody trying to connect her camera. Frehi, what? Is that the correct way to pronounce your first name? Yes? You wanted to share your perspective? Please go ahead.
No, like I was just entered to the meeting in between, so no, I don't have anything to say, but I'm from Splash. We are working on water hygiene plantation, so if there is anything else to describe, we have more expertise on school wash, so anything that's regarding to this topic, we can have more detail and experience to explain. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sounds good. Great. I think we are reaching the end of this session. So thank you for the few active members who took the risk of putting their camera and speak up about their perspective. It's very nice to have
I think it's a very great platform. Whenever we find people like you sharing such kind of challenges, it's a good opportunity. Maybe we will not make sense, but at least if you get 1 or 2 ideas, I think it will make a lot of difference, right?
Exactly. It's trying to figure out what is the most insightful and decide, strike, and act. So hopefully these type of sessions are useful, regardless of whether we're able to be there, together physically or not. The concept.
And even you can search one more website called Isha. Even they are working on so much directly with the rural segment, especially in water. It is called as Isha. I don't know whether you know about him. Do you know about Sadhguru?
No.
So many impactful projects they're doing in India, even in abroad. I think in India they have a very big footstep. So I'll also share that website link as well.
Okay,
Isha.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Great. I'll let everyone a minute to ease your mind, and then we'll be put back into the session with everyone. Okay? See you soon. So I see we're welcoming people for the second half. So maybe I'll give them some insights on what will happen when they go back to the main session. So our session is about WASH innovations. We had several people taking the stage to talk about challenges around water quality, challenges around sustainability of local business solutions, challenges around how to engage local government in implementation of WASH policies, challenges around funding, how to make sure that capital is flowing to the right, relevant, and scalable projects. So We spent the past 30 minutes explaining those challenges and then brainstorming in various groups on what would be our solutions to these challenges. And in the upcoming, I believe, 2 minutes, we'll be going back to the main session. And here, each of the speaker will then take the floor again and share how in real life their company, their institution themselves actually tackled these challenges. What solutions did they put in place? Was it perfect? Could it still be improved? And we hope that this session will be able to inspire other people in their work to pick up on these ideas, leapfrog, and then do better. So I think stay with us. I think the active part is behind us now for those who are just maybe a little bit more in learning and attending mood. And we will soon be all together back in a hybrid session, Stockholm on one side and us all over the world. I assume some of you are calling from India. I'm calling from Cambodia. We had some colleagues calling from Africa, from Somalia, for instance. So very excited to see so much diversity, and we'll see what conclusions we can draw at the end. So thank you.
I know what the solutions are, right? Vida? Check, yeah. All right, Vida, Tania, can you please join the stage? And those who are online are joining us again?
We are here.
Okay. So now you've explored the challenges, you've come up and contributed solutions, but in fact, each one of our presenters and their organization has a solution. So we're going to hear what these solutions are. I've also asked them to integrate ideas and thoughts that came from the tables when they present. So that's their challenge. First up, Dina.
Great. Thank you for everyone that contributed to the discussion. So one of the things that I kind of love about when we think about systems change at Helvetas, and especially when we think about technology, is there's always this, do we need to reinvent the wheel discussion? And there's always like, is there just a simple solution here? And what I love about what we came up with at Helvetas as part of what was this the REACH program and with AVOG University was we looked at the technology that exists and we simplified it for kind of a local context. And I heard a lot of this at the table discussion that we were having, which, you know, one of our peers from Nepal was like, well, there are these like local solutions here, and can you use an incubator that exists? And that's really what we ended up doing in Nepal. So there's an incubator that exists that is actually imported, and we worked with AVOG to redesign it using things that can be found locally. So, you know, instead of a couple 100-watt solar powered incubator that costs $1,000, they were able to re-engineer one using local materials and a solar powered, a household solar powered unit. Again, we talked a lot about the supply chain challenge, and whilst we weren't able to eliminate that, we were able to reduce the amount of supplies using kind of filter membranes. And there was also a lot of this that came up around how do you do this locally, sustainably, and that was through use of local health assistance workers. That came up a lot was, can you leverage the medical system and the supply chain that's already been invented, or if you will, used in that way. I do have to give some shout outs to what were some also other amazing ideas, including carrier pigeons and drones to deliver water samples. Which I do love, and also another thing that I loved was another group just being like, can you chlorinate the water, and then it's easier to test for chlorine than it is for E. coli. I also just love this kind of out of the box thinking. So again, this is a little bit of a tech innovation, but in the way that it didn't need to go more tech or higher tech or more interesting, but to say how can we localize this solution to be a little bit more inexpensive, sustainable, long-term. So thanks everyone for your help on this.
Okay, we're gonna hear from Dina online, who's gonna share her solutions. Dina, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. So indeed, on our side, the way we went about pulling together financiers with very different risk appetites or constraints is that we created the blended finance structure. It's actually in our Incofin universe, it's called the Water Access Acceleration Fund. It was launched in February of this year. It managed to pull together 36 million euro. And it's aimed to reach 50 million euro by the end of the year. Why do we think it's innovative? It's innovating because, as I said, it's bringing people with very different nature together. As you can see through the logos, you see some corporations, you see some development financial institutions, you see some banks, you see some foundations. And how is it that these people manage to agree to work all together? It's the way that we structure the nature of the capital. There are 3 types of capital shares. The first one is called the normal one, or Class A. It's for the private sector individuals, the one that are saying, listen, I want to invest in drinking water space, but I cannot afford to take too much risk. I cannot lose the money. This is the first time that my bank or my company is making a move towards drinking water. I need this capital to be safe. This is the big lower gray, the bigger gray bulk you see on the side. How can these people be pulled into this? It's because we have meanwhile development financial institutions and foundations that are saying, I'm going to provide you what we call the first loss cushion, the de-risking aspect of the fund. And this is the money that you can use if everything goes wrong. If we make loss, it absorbs, and therefore it protects the capital of the more classic investors. The third type of capital, the darker gray, what is it about? It's us, the global impact investor, Incofin. We take the risk, we bring the expertise, so we go in it together with our other investors. We prove to them that we are in it, and we're also putting our skin in the game. This is pioneer also, because drinking water, low-income population is a very impactful, but very, very cautious sector to approach. So we have in this regard developed an impact incentive mechanism. We, as the global investor managing this fund, we not only rewarded if we reach financial sustainability of the fund, we also rewarded if we reach impact metrics. And this is embedded in the strategy. None of these individual investors can derail this strategy. It's been agreed together. And now we, Incofin, have the duty to make it a reality. The following slide, in a nutshell, gives you a last bit of flavor. Then once this money is put together, you're telling me, okay, where does it go? Where does it go? It will go to local private solutions companies, so water businesses in emerging markets from Latin America all the way to my region, East Asia. Will provide them equity, so capital, will provide them long-term patient financing, will invest in various countries around the world, so we'll de-risk, which was one of the topics that my group talked about. How do we make sure that certain countries with higher risk are not being excluded. Well, if you have a global fund, you can take risk on certain high-risk countries in exchange of investing in countries that are slightly higher and more stable country risk outlook. This fund will provide 20 billion liters of safe drinking water. It will want to reach 30 million people at its year 10. And it has at its core a strong gender and climate angle as well. We don't provide any sorts of drinking water. We provide it in a gender inclusive way. We provide it in the climate resilience and adaptive way. We provide it in an affordable way to suit to the purchasing power or low-income population in emerging markets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dina. Okay, Vida.
So thank you to all of you who came to the table to share brilliant ideas. It reinforced the fact that we are all part of the system. Whether you are providing infrastructure, whether you are doing monitoring, whether you are building capacity of government, together we work to provide universal services. And so people who came to the table, being part of the ecosystem, appreciated the challenge at the systems level and provided very, very useful suggestions on how to deal with the issues that I presented. So most of the things that were said at the table are in what I'm going to present. So you find it, and then we also had new areas coming up. So in dealing with that system level challenge that I presented, we had to work at all the levels of government. So the photograph that I have in the slide shows representatives from the national government, those who work at the policy level, at the ministry, the regional level. So we have the regional minister, those also who work at the district level, so district champions, district chief executives. And then you see the man in the cloth. He is a chief. And in Ghana, we have chiefs. The chiefs are the custodians of the land and the leaders of the people. So if you really want to work and bring the people on board, you have to necessarily involve the chiefs to get their attention. And so to be able to deliver water services, we also have to look at all the actors and how we would connect all of them to address the challenge areas that I presented. So let's look at the key pillars. First, we focused on a district because we believe that districts is a jurisdiction with local authority, and you can have a unit to work with. In that district, we developed what we called a master plan, but it wasn't developed by IRC. We enabled the government to bring all the actors together, mapped who is there, mapped the level of services, and together establish a vision and what steps will be taken to be able to get to that vision. To be able to do that, we also developed partnership agreements. So a partnership agreement was developed, led by the district, identifying all the actors and the role that they will play in doing that. So we have this master plan that provides more or less the roadmap. And that becomes the tool that the government uses to ensure proper alignment and coordination of the partners. So by just having the master plan and going through that process, we were able to a greater extent address the issue of partnerships, alignment, leadership, and then the issue of mutual accountability. We also agreed on a common monitoring framework, which we all shared for a common process. We started off with one district, and based on the lessons since 2017, And now that district is one of the best performing districts in Ghana, almost at universal service. We are now scaling that process to the regional level. So the regional level will have a number of districts led by the regional minister. And now the district is introducing the idea to the other districts. National government has documented the best learning and also using that to improve on the guidelines for planning, the guidelines and the policies that we have. So we have moved from one district and now are able to scale that idea when we work through the challenge of addressing the 3 key questions that I posed. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Vida. Moving along, Alex.
So our reveal is that at the Toilet Board Coalition, we run the world's leading accelerator for sanitation economy businesses. The program offers bespoke business model design, corporate mentorship, access to investment over a 12-month period, and an ongoing community of support and collaboration for local entrepreneurs. We uniquely facilitate vital partnerships between SMEs, corporates, investors, and governments to accelerate business growth and progress on SDG 6.2. We focus on 3 areas. We accelerate intelligence so that more sanitation economy entrepreneurs succeed. We accelerate investment so that sanitation assets can be built and maintained. And we accelerate demand so that the best solutions can scale rapidly. Altogether, we're aiming to impact 1 billion lives by 2030. And now we'll come back to Ulka. Ulka worked with Unilever and Kimberly-Clark throughout 2018 to optimize their business model and their brand. With Unilever's support, they tested multiple business models alongside the bus, a health clinic, a laundry facility. With Kimberly-Clark's support, they built a brand around the T-bus. They painted the buses pink. They installed screens and branding around and within the toilets to educate and connect with their customer. Ultimately, they identified the value proposition that spoke to their market, and they've grown incredibly since the program. This is, of course, a huge testament to Ulka and her amazing team. This is one story from our current alumni portfolio. To date, we have 58 stories like these, and we have set ourselves a goal to build 1,000 stories by 2030.
I try to do this fast so we can have a Q&A. So I want to say thanks to all the people that share their ideas, and I want to invite you, if ever you have more, we still have like 3 days to go. So don't hesitate and come to see me to share your great ideas, because we always need to innovate. And yeah. So our technical assistance is mostly about co-creating change processes, exchanging knowledge and practices with our partners. And because we were unable to do this ourselves, visiting those countries, for this technical assistance support, we decided to develop an online free resource for all to use. It hasn't come out in the work groups. So we created an Social Life for Behavior Change online course within the WASH Academy, which is powered by our friends from IRC. So this innovation here lies in the fact that not only had we never done this before, and believe me, trust me, it's a lot of work to capture everything that you've been accumulated for years and translate this in a learning cursus. It's a lot of work. It's an innovation for us also because behavior change training for the WASH sector didn't exist a few years back. I don't even know if it still exists. I know I've seen behavior change courses, quite expensive, that do touch on certain topics or behaviors a lot in the health sector. But for the WASH sector itself, this is, I think, probably one of them, or maybe the only one. It has multiple, we've seen, so what I want to say is that it's the innovation is also that it is situating this in a systemic building block model, which is also unique. it gave a new autonomy to partners. This is what we were aiming for. We don't want to be indispensable for this. We want the partners to gain in autonomy. So this is what it gave. Now they're using this as a tool so that all the actors of the project can refer to it and feed it to. It also gave birth to an hybrid model of co-creation process. We were asked by other organizations to provide an on-learning hybrid model, blended learning model. So we accompany them. They do from some sessions, we gather all together. We invite a community of practice. We have three different languages, and then they continue up until their certificate. The first prototype of this online course was done in English. Then we have the French version, and the latest edition of it is a Spanish edition. It's a special Spanish edition because it was fed by all the beautiful initiatives and social art for behavior change processes and products that were created within the Lazos de Agua program that just finished in Latin America. This tool or initiative is actually opening new opportunities and new questions for us. It's like a never-ending loop or story. We are now asking ourselves, how might we scale this up? How might we scale this deeper? And how might we scale this out? And we were also asked, how can we take the social art for behavior change approach outside of the WASH sector? And now we are trying to understand how we can make systems work or speak to each other, not system, platforms. So we have this online course, and we also have another tool that is a creative lab that is more of a management tool. How can those two platforms really talk the same language so that it can be more efficient for the partners? That's our answer. And
great.
Innovative.
Thank you, Tania. Okay, we only have a few minutes left for some Q&A. My colleague here, El Ninik, has a ball, so he's going to throw it out there. And first one to catch it. Quick, 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 quick. Throw it just out. Just throw it. First one to catch it, please. Someone's got to pick up the ball. Pick up the ball. Quick, quick. All right. All right. Well, the point is we want to hear from you on first thought around what comes to mind when we say WASH innovation. Just out of what came from, inspired from today's session. Anybody? Piggybacking, replicating, scaling. Yeah. Anybody else? I can threaten with another ball.
It was
sorry.
It was extremely engaging. You helped us to engage in solving the problem. So you created a demand for thinking and hey, this is a difficult challenge.
Great, thank you. Anybody else over there? Just speak loud. Yes, thinking beyond technologies. Great. Anybody else? Yes.
I got hit by the ball, so I guess I had to say something. Yeah, in line with that, like social innovation, right? How do you just work with people, get people together? The solutions are out there. It's just a matter of, getting those minds working all for one purpose. I guess that's, my contribution.
Great. Another takeaway. Yes.
Hi, I actually wanted to ask a question.
Yes, please.
So of all the examples and all the case studies that you showed, I see a lot of countries from Africa, South Asia, Latin America. Does that essentially mean that there are no WASH challenges in Europe and Central America or North America?
I will pass to anybody here who wants to pick it, but I can answer that. And I would say there are. In fact, One Drop just started working in Canada to support the Indigenous in Canada, who a lot of those communities do not have access to clean, safe drinking water. So we're trying to figure out We're actually working with the social art as the entry point into those communities. Yeah. Anybody else? Question for the panel? Takeaway. Did you have fun? Yeah.
Had loads of fun. I think the big one for me was incentivization, and it all boils down to how are you going to make it truly desirable for people to ultimately A, invest, and B, spend their own well-earned time on any of the issues that we have in this particular space. Obviously, the one that I was most engaged with was with Alex in the TBC, and that was a truly interesting conundrum that you need to bring WASH into the zeitgeist. And ultimately, for as long as we don't do that, for as long as it doesn't remain a top or doesn't become a top of mind issue, we're always going to struggle to get the innovation, to get the right expertise, the right mindsets that you need in order to drive the solutions in this area. So yeah, that was it.
Great. So designing with and for the people.
I had never heard of SABC before, but that sounds fascinating. We talked about in our group how sometimes CLTS, although helpful, and it might not be the most effective in certain situations because it can oftentimes invoke shame or focus on the negatives, whereas SABC can be fun and engaging.
Thank you. We don't have to promote it. You did it for us. Oh, we have a question. Okay. One last question. Anybody? Comment? No? All right. Well, there was a Let's Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to connect, and we'll see you around. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye now.